Jake Paul going to beat Perry, guys? What do you think? My partners at DraftKings have this posted, and they have Paul as a favorite. Does that surprise you? And you want to know something? I'll bet it doesn't. I'll bet it doesn't surprise you. Did you think that Paul was going to beat Mike Tyson? And I know some of you did. As a matter of fact, my partners at DraftKings had Paul as the favorite. Does that surprise you? Probably not. He's active. He's busy. What's Mike doing? I mean, you predicted that Mike wasn't able to get through training camp to get to the fight in the first place. But if he did, if they were in there, if we had some ability to get that, forget about training camps, can we just put them in there and the residue of previous camps and experience that Mike Tyson has, is it enough to beat Paul? Paul was a favorite, 2-1 in fact. 2-1's not that much. For a 27-year-old against a 57-year-old, like, that's not that much of a spread. But now I just want you to think of that. I want you to think of kind of Paul and Tyson. I kind of want you to have that in your head. But I want to change the players around. Wherever you were, and most people, I'll represent them right here. Most people are like this. Well, if Mike can get inside and get to the body, if Mike can land some of that big power, like you'd always have these ifs that would give you enough to go in the direction of the guy that you favor. And not favor because you're being objective. Favor like you prefer him as a person and or an athlete. And then the other people are like, well, I'm Team Paul. Say, yeah, but he's not going to let him inside him. That's all Tyson could do to win. And Paul's so young. He's on those young legs, and he's big, and he's going to move around. He's just going to be quicker. He's going to touch him up. He's going to get him a little bit tired. Right? Like, you start to make a case both directions. I really never ran into anybody, including you guys in the comment section, that was 100% bullish. No, Mike beats him the end. No matter how it goes, no matter what round it goes, no matter if inside, outside, long fight, short fight, anyway, Mike wins. But I also never met the people for Paul. So let me just change the players. Let me just ask you now, Mike Tyson versus Mike Perry. Who would you think my partners at DraftKings would put as the favorite if that fight was coming up? And Mike would have a meaningful size advantage. I'm talking about Mike Tyson. So
let me ask you a question.
Please.
Jake Paul is open to fighting Mike Perry in MMA and the PFL afterwards. Who wins that?
Did you guys hear that question? Voice of God coming from RP there. He says, PFL, MMA fight, Mike Perry versus Jake Paul. But see, things aren't quite as easy, are they? Like, there was once a time when you would dismiss Jake Paul completely and you would put any meaningful MMA fighter against him. So I just want to bring you to this situation. So now we've got Mike Perry, Jake Paul. Jake Paul is bigger. That's true. Jake Paul is going to have to be coming down to the fight. That's true. But this is Mike Perry. This is the face of an organization, bare knuckle boxing. This is the guy that went into the Triller event, took on the number 2 boxer on earth, and beat him. A split decision, but it was a stunning moment. That was with the gloves on. He then took on multiple world champions with the gloves off, and he didn't just beat him, he sent him to the hospital. And I'm telling you the story from this perspective, guys, because Jake Paul, while being signed to fight Mike Tyson on the 20th of this month, currently signed to fight Mike Perry on the 20th of this month, was called out Saturday of this past weekend by Nate Diaz. And the final analysis here is Jake won. Jake Paul won. Jake Paul was trying to put himself in a position, and his initial claim was that I will be in there with. He never even said he'd beat him, by the way. He only claimed that he could get the fight with either Conor McGregor or Canelo Alvarez. Those were his two, those were his target, those were his marks for whatever reason. But that wasn't that long ago. Like, I watched Jake fight the boxer. I apologize, the basketball player, the slam dunk champion. That wasn't that long ago. I had a different studio back then. I remember the studio, that was just a number of years ago. Jake fought on Triller, Ben Askren. That wasn't that long ago. But we laughed at him. He couldn't even get on the docket with these guys. You would ask MMA guys about Jake, and they would all give you the same answer. They would start with a little bit of a chuckle as a way of dismissing him. They would then come in and say, yeah, I would do the fight because they knew what the numbers and the money was. And then they would finish their statement by saying, but that's not the kind of fight that Jake wants. Meaning, I'm too good and I'm too skilled. They dismissed him. Now they're begging for him. They're calling him out. If you think Conor McGregor would not sign up to take on Paul right now if they could come up with a weight class, you're wrong. He would. And if you think that Canelo Alvarez, should Jake Paul have success over Perry and Tyson, if you think Canelo's not going to be sitting there waiting, and if you think Oscar and Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum and whoever else has to have something to do with that in agreeing to sign off on it, they will. They absolutely will. And it is just a stunning difference a day can make. We watched Jake Paul defeat an NBA guy, and things got worse for him. Things got worse. Now, we were more defiant and adamant that he could not take on and then fill in the blank, but it was anybody with any level of skill. Then he took Askren on. And we found a way, Askren, who was 17-2 and a 2-division world champion, we found a way to dismiss that. And then there was even a period of time where when Anderson went down, it was a worked fight, and you got to watch it from 10 different angles, but we think that he was I mean, just silliness. And now we have accepted it, and this is the proof. And you might not know it about yourself. You may still be in the camp of anti-Jake Paul, but when I asked you if he was going to beat Mike Tyson, you were not defiant one way or the other. You were hedging, and you wanted to know how many rounds is it, and who's Mike training with? That right there is a stark difference from when Jake was doing the things with Triller. Jake was going after KSI, and he was going after him hard. But now when Jake calls out KSI, and I have no doubt that those guys could move the needle, I'm just sharing with you, that isn't one that we latch to anymore. Because of the way that we view Jake, we've got him in a different category. He's a favorite over Mike Tyson, and we want to see him in there with KSI. I mean, just in all fairness, he's made it. He's made it. It worked. This whole hustle worked. Now, he's got to deal with Perry. And that is a lot to deal with. But these two used to spar together. Are you guys aware of that? And when they sparred together, Jake was a lot bigger. Perry was not a 70-pounder like he is now, and now he fights at 185. Perry was a 55-pounder who sometimes fought at 70. So that was a very different world for both of them. And then there was even a cheat code, steroid cheat code. Did you guys hear this statement? Mike Perry said Jake has gotten so much better, you couldn't do that without a steroid cheat code. But then Perry backed away from it and said, I'm just going to keep saying that to keep messing with him. I don't really know if he's on steroids. And I'm only sharing with you, like, yes, if somebody goes from 205 pounds to 225 pounds, that is very difficult to do. Unless they are absolutely driven, absolutely focused, and committed to doing it. Then they could. And see, those are all things that we thought that Paul was not. But now that we realize he was a favorite over Mike Tyson, he's favored right now to beat Mike Perry. Could you think of something you'd rather do less? Like if you had to go into a sport, you could play Serena in tennis. You could tee off against Tiger. You could go one down in the NFL. You could jump off against LeBron. Like, I could keep on doing it. You could swim the link with Phelps. Or you can go in and fight bare knuckle with Mike Perry. Like, can you think of anything in sport that you would rather do less? Because Jake Paul, the one that we laughed at, is getting ready to do it. And according to DraftKings, he's going to win.